Good morning. I had to turn the heater off. It's making too much noise. This morning I want to talk about God's love because it's like the main thing. In all these other videos I make, God's love is the main thing. Relationship with Him, it's the main thing. It's always got to be the main thing. It'll always be the main thing. That's why when questioned, Jesus said, the main thing is the main thing. What's that? The first and greatest commandment. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. Why? Because love is the main thing. Love will always be the main thing. And where's the only place you can find love? Inside of a relationship. So we have to have a relationship with Him to live in that love. But this morning I want to talk about a few specifics of why that's important. Although there is an infinite number of an infinite number of reasons as to why it's important. Here's a few that have been on my mind lately. And the love of God secures you in specifics. Well, specifically, here's what I mean. Inside of the culture of faith, people of faith who believe in Christ, believe in God, which is billions of people. I'm not talking about any particular denomination. I'm talking about in general, which is a couple billion people worldwide, roughly. In that culture, you're going to have probably couple of billion different opinions as to what God's like. And if you live there, if you live under other people's opinions and thoughts and sweeping declarations, instead of knowing Him yourself, it's going to be confusing. And not only is it going to be confusing, but it's probably going to be fearful too. That's why I said love secures you. Because when you know Him yourself, His love secures you. Having spent 35 years in Christian culture, I've heard it all. Okay? I mean, I'm sure I haven't heard it all. But I say that to say I've heard the majority of it, right? What people think, what people say. I've heard so many sermons, read tons of books, and it's like, once you do that enough, you realize that not very many people are in agreement. A lot of it conflicts with each other. A lot of it conflicts with what's in the Bible. Right? You hear conflicting things from time to time, and you also realize that you can tell when people know Him and when people don't. Because when people don't know Him, it's usually that. It's disjointed, disconnected, a bunch of different thoughts, and it's almost always fear-based. And they hand that out to other people, and so people remain confused and fearful. And this is in the faith culture. This is in the culture of the church, right? I use that term in a very broad sense. Covers all denominations, etc. But it's just this constant fear and uneasiness and whoa, what do we really think God's like? Because we don't know. We're guessing. We're reading our Bibles. Okay, that's a good start. Okay, but it's not the completion of it. The completion of it is the point of the Bible, Himself, living in love with Him. So you got to know Him and live in His love to avoid that confusion that comes from Christian culture. Number two, I include myself in this, of course, we have to know Him to avoid the confusion and the fear and the lies that our own minds will come up with. You can't trust your own mind in this stuff. You have to know Him. You have to get your information personally straight from Him. How's that happen? It happens in the Spirit, because He is a spirit. God is spirit, and those who worship must worship in spirit and truth. Jesus said to the woman at the well, but he said it to all of us. So that's why there is a spirit of truth, right? There's not a... Jesus didn't say you will get your information from the book of truth. He said you'll get your information from the spirit of truth, right? Now, the Bible is certainly a book of truth, but there's a lot of issues with the Bible, too, that you have to understand. So what he said is you'll get your truth from the spirit of truth, okay? He said that in John 16. I believe it is John 16. He also mentioned the spirit of truth in John 14, I believe. That whole dialogue he had with the disciples before he was crucified. So you have to listen to that spirit of truth and be in relationship with him to know the truth about God and his love, in order to not believe the stuff that your own mind will tell you. And your own mind gets its information, it gets trained, it gets conditioned by so many things. By your upbringing, by your experiences, by what you're taught, by the influences around you, by a ton of things, okay? That could be a book in itself, and a conference of sermons on how your mind comes up with what it comes up with, okay? But the point is you have to get past all that by knowing God himself. When you know him himself, his love and his truth will cut past all that stuff regularly, which is what we need. And you'll learn to depend on what he's telling you and what he's showing you and who he is, instead of what your own mind is spitting out at you. And you can just learn to ignore your own mind. Not completely. We have to use our minds to live and function, but a lot of it's beliefs, it's conditioning, the ways it has been trained to work over the years. And this is what Paul was talking about in Corinthians when he said, we are tearing down imaginations and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God. Well, he was talking about many things, but that's one of the things he was talking about. It's those things that our minds have been conditioned and trained to believe and think through a host of experiences, that when you know him and you know his love, it erodes those things. It slowly chips away at those things and tears them down. Even if they persist for a while, you can know they're ultimately doomed, right? Because you can see him and you can see past him. See past those things, I mean. So, for those reasons and more, there's an infinite number more of reasons why we need God's love, which is ultimately found in relationship. You can have sporadic events that can help you to believe in God's love, but to actually experience his love on a consistent basis in order to secure us like we need, you got to have that relationship. Relationship is where the fullness of love is experienced. So trust in God's love more than what you see, more than what you experience, more than what you think, and do it by having a real, honest, authentic relationship with him. Thank you and have a nice day.